I wonder how long Ferentz has got. Because, I mean, if Nick Saban was like, I'm out of here, man. And Dabo Sweeney has made it clear he's not too satisfied with the transfer portal and all of college football. And I'm not sure how Kurt Ferentz has felt about it. He's just been kind of meh about it. But how long do we see him coaching in college football? And does Phil Parker come with
Hmm.
Kurt Ferentz, or does he stay behind like Bud Foster did for a couple of years?
Yeah, or like Jan Jensen has done for Iowa women's basketball. Um, I think first of all, first question about Kirk. He's contracted through 2029. Um, I don't think he. I think it's safer to say I'm confident that he does not like the conference expansion. He does not like the transfer portal. He does not like NIL. Now he's survived these first couple of years because he's got great support from donors. He's got a good collective backing him in the swarm. Um, the schedule gets a lot tougher next year. Now, I said that last year. I said the schedule's going to get a lot tougher next year because of the new Big Ten. They got about as favorable as a draw as one could imagine in the new Big Ten. So it's going to be harder than last season, but the schedule is favorable in that they avoid USC, they avoid Michigan, and
They
they
avoid
avoid
Oregon.
they avoid Oregon and they avoid Penn State. So you get Ohio State on the road, which is going to obviously be really difficult. But then your two games against West Coast opponents are a Washington team that lost almost everything and a UCLA team that made one of the stranger head coaching hires that I can remember in college football recent history. So, very favorable schedule from that perspective. I think they have a chance to make a run at 9 or 10 wins. If they do that, Jackson, if they win 10 games, they're in the playoff conversation. That could potentially be a year where he hangs it up. I could see that, especially if Tim Lester comes in and the offense isn't going to be top 20, top 30, but if they can get back to even top 80, that would be a huge step in the right direction. They've been bottom of the barrel in the FBS over the last 3 years. If they could do that with Tim Lester, maybe he walks away. And as it relates to Phil Parker, I know a lot of people think that Phil's not interested in being a head coach. I don't think it's quite the same situation as the Jan Jensen hire, but you've gotta offer him the job. I think if Fran or if Kirk walks away after this season, Phil say, hey, how many years do you got? What do you need? What can we put around you? We you deserve this. We appreciate you staying here as long as you did. He's had opportunities to go other places, and he's stuck put. So um, yeah, I mean the Kirk Ferentz one is interesting because again his contract goes through 29. I think a lot of money in that contract. He's the dean of college football, longest tenured coach in the FBS, and he's got a pretty favorable schedule. And with the expanded playoff, I think 10 wins might get you in. Frankly, they ain't winning a Big Ten title. All right, they're not winning,
Yeah.
they're not winning a Big Ten title, but you don't have to anymore. That is not the goal anymore. Maybe Kirk is still going to profess that to be the goal, but the goal now is can you get to 9 to 10 wins and get yourself in a position to maybe make that top 12? Um, as it relates to Joey's question here, second and third teamers on defense that stand out. Well, you mentioned John Nestor um, at corner. I think at linebacker, they're really deep there. Carson Shire's a young guy who's been hurt a lot. He's going to be about as strong of a backup as you could imagine, assuming he stays healthy at linebacker because they bring back Jay Higgins, they bring back Nick Jackson and Kyler Fisher. And then I think there's opportunity on the defensive line. Some young guys that they lost Ontario Thompson, transferred out. Kind of a weird decision for him to transfer out. Goes to Western Michigan over in the MAC. So they've got some opportunity there. Losing Logan Lee and Joe Evans, Noah Shannon, those guys are done. But yeah, I mean, I think the best second and third teamers would probably be John Nestor, Cohen Intringer at safety is a trendy name. People love that name, and then Carson Shire, maybe even a Jaden Harrell. Heard good things from Kirk Ferentz on Jaden at linebacker. Um, and I don't know, man. I'd have to study the roster and watch fall camp a little bit more before I gave you an answer about the defensive line. I think there's a lot of opportunity there because they like to play 8 to 9 guys.
Well, and as you said, the schedule's pretty easy. Washington, they're just rebuilding, especially with a new head coach and a new roster just all around them. Especially when they got to go to Cadet Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to get what I like is that you've got UCLA down in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl in November. That'll be a nice
Oh,
little.
there's no home field advantage there.
Well, I just like the hey, go play in the warm weather for a little bit because once you hit November, it starts to get pretty nippy usually in Iowa. So I don't know the last time Iowa's played somewhere that far south in the regular season or that warm in the regular season in November. So, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it an easy schedule. It's a manageable schedule, and again, comparative to the rest of the conference, obviously Big Ten, SEC, 1A, 1B, right now as it relates to
Oh,
the current makeup of the two conferences. So, comparative to every team, I think I've not studied every team's schedule, but again, you're going to play a couple of those teams out west, and if there's two teams that I don't want to play from out west, that's Oregon and USC, and they avoided both.
yeah, I would hate to be going up against Miller Moss because all he's got to do is take advantage of the Iowa defense, and Iowa's in trouble if they're going against USC. And Joey's got a question for you. Do you expect there to be a battle at Maryland this year?
I'm curious to see who their quarterback is. I mean, I would love to be able to talk to a Terps expert because I don't know who their quarterback is. It seems like Tagovailoa has been there forever. I don't even remember who their quarterback was before Talia. So I'm sure they have the answer to that, and I'm just naive to it. But um, maybe. I mean, one of the big storylines is you got Brian Ferentz, who's now on the staff there as an analyst. I think it's probably a nice thing for Maryland that they don't have to come to Iowa City with that hire, but Iowa goes there. So yeah, I mean, late November. When's the last time Iowa played Maryland? Second to last game of the season, I think. Was that what it was right before the Nebraska game? So um,
Yeah.
depending on quarterback, yeah, it's gonna be a challenge. Maryland, they seem to score a lot of points. Although, look at recent history. Look at the last 3 to 4 years, Jackson. Maryland typically starts hot and then fades late. Now they have been better. They have been better as a whole in recent
They
time.
always do that crap.
Well, and I think part of the reason is they don't schedule great in the non-conference, so they maybe put together a little bit of a um, faulty or phony record. So they're typically got a great record heading into October. The problem is they've played in the East. So once you hit the East, then you're playing Ohio State and Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State. So I think that's part of it. I don't know what their schedule looks like this year, but I do think that's been a little bit of an issue fading late. So Iowa getting them in November might not be a bad thing.
Well, it just screams trap game written all over it. But I will say anything can happen in the crazy world of college football. But
Hey,
like you said, go ahead.
I was gonna say, imagine they're they're sitting in a position where hey, you win these last two and you are 10-2. I mean, if they're 8-2 heading into that game, it's like okay, hey, that is a trap game because I mean I don't even know if they call it a trap game, but a scary game because I think two
Uh,
wins maybe get you into the playoff. And 8-2 is not unreasonable at all. It's not like us sitting here saying, "Oh, they might be undefeated heading into that game." We've said that in the past, just to kind of, I don't know, speculate about the possibility of a 12-0 run in a playoff appearance. But hey, 8-2 might put you in a position. I don't know where they'd be in the poll at that point in the season. They'd probably be sniffing the top 20, and then two more wins could potentially get you there. Um, what I think will be interesting, not to change the subject, what I think will be interesting is see what the committee does with the third Big Ten team and the third SEC team. In other words, the team that does not make the championship game. Because so there's four teams right there. Assuming those four teams that are in the two championship games get in, and then you're gonna have a team from the Big 12. You're gonna have a team from the ACC. I would assume that the third best team is going to get in, but how do you like if it's Iowa and Penn State? Well, if it's Iowa Penn State and they don't play each other and they're both 10-2, what's the criteria for figuring out who gets in? Does a Big Ten maybe get four in? Those are going to be the interesting conversations I think once we hit mid-November, and so yeah, that easily could be a big game late.
I think the strength of victories could be one of the criterias, but we'll definitely wait and see what happens.